Hello and welcome everyone to the Arma 3 audio design, sound engine, and soundtrack stream. We're here today. We'll be discussing, after nearly 10 years, how Arma 3 became what it is today. And I'm joined by a very special guest, Jan Dušek, the original audio lead for Arma 3, who will help us give us some behind the scenes knowledge on these topics. For viewers, I just wanted to say that if you have any questions about audio design or development or anything similar, feel free to ask questions throughout the entire chat in the chat throughout the entire stream, and we'll be collecting them for answering later in the stream. So as we get going, I just want to say hello, but I want to welcome our very special honored guest, and we'll address him as well. All right. Hello, Dusha, and I just want to say, yeah. First off, let's just introduce you in the best way we can. Can you tell us who you are and how are you involved in Arma 3, and how did you get started in audio development?
Hello, thank you, Niles. Do you hear me?
Everything's
fine
good.
technically. Good. Nice. You know, always when sound designers are having any conversation online, there are problems with microphones because they are so sophisticated all the time. So any meetings actually with audio guys are like, let's set up it properly. Oh, this filter is on and off. So yeah, I'm Jan Dušek. I'm currently project lead of Arma Reforger, and I'm the former lead audio guy for Arma 3. So I was with Arma 3 almost since beginning. Well, since beginning, actually, yeah. I started with Arma 2 when I first joined 16 years or how many years ago, Arma 3 team. And yeah, there's when I was thinking about the stream and selecting topics, I really realized there's like a lot of things to say. Like the history is so long, since really early beginning till the actually current audio engine we are developing with Enfusion. So yeah, we started with simple things and we were improving step by step. Evolution is everywhere as we do it, and painful very often. You know, so many things, many genes we were developing actually died, and many genes were, you know, grown to read interesting ideas at least. So yeah, so there's one thing. I have a background in physics, so I was always thinking about audio as a phenomena rather than the feature of the game. So I was always thinking about it. How the hell can we simulate these real life things like wave traveling through the space, through the environment, you know, and how to simulate it simply, even to not use like huge, you know, powerful computers to whatever wave equations solutions. So this was the way of thinking I started. And when I came for the first time to Arma 3, I realized that there are like really simple solutions. Like, for instance, for the first time I saw how the sound of the weapon in the early game was done. It was a one sound playing from the barrel of the weapon. So actually it was a mono sound positioned, which includes the reflection. So it was like everything was baked in one sample. So okay, there were three, I believe, which were alternating, but it was like, is it really a reality? Because, you know, the reflection is the sound coming from everywhere, just not from that barrel, you know. It's like reflection. So I was thinking like how to decompose things. So, you know, with decomposing, we start thinking about improvements to the audio engine and some features. And actually, decomposition means a lot more work, more sounds to collect, to actually record. So we're starting to grow the team. New sound designer came in, and sound designers later, and also there was like a need for recording sessions. So we started to go out recording in the early beginnings, because there were no libraries which will suit our purposes. So, you know, to combine sounds from the original resources, we need to actually record them. So we started that thing, and we found a lot of phenomena which were not simulated back then, like sonic correct, for instance. The thing that if the bullet travels in supersonic speed, it takes actually shockwave with it, and that's the crack, you know, coming. So we realized even that if the bullet on the recording session for the first time, you know, when we were recording for the first time, we realized this phenomena can actually discover the distance of the shooter, because if you know the time between those two sounds, so in the direction you can somehow estimate things. And also we realized how loud the sound is. So there were a lot of things we went through, and we were having a lot of fun during this time. This, for instance, this sonic rag, we came to vehicles and saw, well, there are supersonic jets, we need to simulate that too. And we were having a lot of challenges, which even was like design decisions. Talking about the sonic rag and the sonic boom on the aircraft, we are, for instance, thinking, should we really simulate it even for the camera which is going with the vehicle? So, if two things are going supersonic speed, we were like asking ourselves, if two Supermans are going supersonic, can they talk to each other or not? So there were like a lot of like challenges, because if you rotate the camera on the moving vehicle which is supersonic, you should go through the sonic boom to the shockwave in this mech cone. So we didn't want actually that people will be listening to it all the time, no matter it would be reality. So yeah, there are a lot of challenges. Also, we were fixing things like issues which turned into the features. For instance, I remember there was a bug for years actually, which was telling us that once you destroy the vehicle, the loop sound stopped immediately, instantly, but the explosion comes with the delay because of the speed of sound. So we were like having fun, like, is this a really bug? No, it's a missing feature as hell. This was like a huge thing. So we came actually later with the feature that every vehicle is carrying the history of all the parameters, or the values, simulation values, which is that long. It is long based on the distance actually, including position. So later in the game appeared the feature when the vehicle or fast mover, is flying, the sound is behind it, as in real life. And we discovered a new issue, that once this sound source is going behind even single small pole, because of our simple way, the tracing of the occlusion calculation, it creates the gaps. So it was really challenging from many point of view, and we went through a lot. And of course, with the needs which we had regarding the soundscape improvements, we also needed engine to be improved. So there were like ideas how to make from the original engine, make it more like a non-linear like mixer. So how to actually create a configuration which can be then combined into something which is changed by the simulation values. I can talk about a lot of features, even like about let's a little bit expand it, maybe to have more fun about it. For instance, whatever environmental sounds, there was like sound map in the beginning, which were describing the sound location of forests and the basic things. So we improved it, and we came with the manager of the local sound. So later in the game, we had a feature then when you are going through the environment, there were sounds which were defined in the scenes. So yeah, we went through all the buildings and put everything on every single metal roof, the sound source that we later can have like metallic rain sound. Like it was really sometimes manual because we didn't have features, we didn't have technology for that, but it was a lot of fun, and we were so excited about all the changes. Yeah, like a lot of things.
I mean, it definitely feels like you said, you have 16 years in with the Arma series, and I feel like we're definitely gonna dive deep into a lot of those aspects you're talking about, especially the audio design, sound engine, and especially like I said, the soundtrack, which is the whole point of why we're here. So kind of actually on that topic, talking about the audio design and something, talking about the game of Arma, I'm sure there's a lot who would love to know, like how do you even get started really with audio development? Like, where does that process at the beginning look like? Is it like, do you start planning features based or things based on the features and assets that are planned, or is it like later in development that those decisions are made, or what does that look like, or is there more to it?
There's a lot. It's really based on what you are working on. There are assets, there are vehicles, and these things. So there we are actually starting always with analysis. No matter when the feature is or the asset is coming, we always think about it way ahead. We go there and we listen to it in real life, which is actually one of the most important things from my experience for every sound designer, to go and listen to it in real life, especially because of the I would say, of everything. Like, first of all, the dynamic range, the loudness of it in real life. You have like a huge range in real life, and you need to simulate it somehow in the game. But also, imagine helicopter. There are so many sources which are actually sound sources, which are specific sounds, and the whole soundscape is a combination of all of them. And then you need to think about why the helicopter sounds like that, why from that direction is different from that direction. So this evaluation analysis and pictures and the significant things are, first of all, like kind of analysis, and it might take a lot of time. Then you need to come with the sounds which are the sources for final mix. So you are recording whatever unplugged films from the helicopter separately, or cheat it by other things. So, we have a small rotor, you cannot record it alone. So you need to come to something which sounds similar, or somehow process the huge rotor without engine, which is not possible to record. So, it's very challenging, because once you start decomposing sounds and combining them back in the game, you need the sources to be recorded, and those are very specific. So you need to take care of recording. And then later, that comes a configuration, which also is difficult sometimes, because, for instance, especially now with Reforger, we have this engine, which is actually the evolution of all ideas we had before, and it actually brings a lot of options. But these options might lead into overkill, over combination. You can have like hundreds of sounds there combined, which are not necessary. So the optimization of the final mix is also part of the development process, because you don't need to have that many variants in the games of this, for instance, footstep sound, that in 1 million years it will not repeat, so you just need an hour maybe. So you can calculate how many layers you need, and so yeah, they're like lot of things. And that's them talking about the environment, but also there are character sounds. They are like, sorry, I'm talking about the vehicles, but there are character sounds, environment, and the other categories.
Yeah. And you touched on it a little bit for the next question I had, but the idea of recording real sources versus using something like the sound library. Can you expand on that a little bit, like what that process looks like in choosing one of the, like, whether to go out and to and how do you even find like, for example, if you're going to record a vehicle, how do you find like a certain vehicle that you want, or how do you have you really used any like third party agencies or something like that to make these recordings for like weapons and other stuff? Can you just touch on that?
It really depends. We started with like guys collecting these historical vehicles. If we need those, if we need modern, we are actually trying to find those too, as close as possible. So thinking about what exact engine is there. Is it the turbine for some types of tanks, for instance, or what? So we are really looking for the resources everywhere possible. And in the beginning, we started with like private people, like which are having those. And later we started cooperation with the Czech army, which was very interesting experience, because it was we realized for the first time that all the army trainings, everything starts at 4:30 in the morning. They cannot wake up as normal people. They need to start at 4:30. So once you are late, you come there 4:40. There's nobody waiting for you. They're gone already shooting, So it was really interesting. And it was also fun. They didn't understand actually that we are recording sounds. They think that we are from the hygiene measuring the safety of the sound, but we just kept them thinking like that. We just recorded everything we wanted. But there was one case, of course. But yeah, but the military equipment, in very limited conditions, we were able to record as well. So we had the resources. But yeah, the trick is in this like evolution of having the sound engine being like a nonlinear mixer, the mixer actually, which actually needs to be fed by the resource files, and those are resource like sounds, and those are sometimes difficult to find because they don't exist alone much sometimes. So you need to find like good place and figure out how to record these layers or design them based on whatever. So yeah, in the end, everything is sine wave, So you can, if you are genius sound designer, you can make from sound wave everything.
Okay.
By just applying and layering and layering and layering.
Yeah, and I guess in that same touch of like how difficult is it to take those either recordings or sound libraries and kind of mix them into a game, or to make them sound that authentic sound or realistic aspect, to kind of include that from everything that you've done in the like with the taking the source or taking that sound library, like something sound. So
Yeah, well, there's one thing to it. Recording is not enough, because like with the experience you realize that it's not only the microphone which is needed. It's when you are listening to sounds, it's also your body somehow absorbing it. So even your voice is completely different when you listen to it from the microphone, from the recording, or when you are talking. And many people don't like it at all, like, to hear themselves talking. So footsteps, for instance, is also the case. When you are walking, there is a thing which you don't realize, which is like more like a little bass feeling and heaviness of your body, which can be supported by the bass line, which is definitely not present in the recording at all. So that is something which needs to be, the emotion a little bit from the sound you have needs to be reflected in the sound design of the result. So yeah, it's not only about recording and perfectly, like precisely with perfect conditions record the sound, but in the end it is an art. Yes, and art is emotion, and to actually simulate the same feeling as you have. So if you have a footstep sound, start with recording, of course, then combine all the layers, whatever you features you have, or information from the environment, but then listen to it. And do I feel walking, or is it just sound listening to recording of somebody else walking? So that's more to it. Also, the representation of sound, the how sounds are being played, it's not that simple, because we have two microphones here. So, well, mono sound doesn't, stereo sound doesn't exist, but in the end you have stereo thing as a recording device of your own. So in the beginning, I was talking about the shot sound. It's not only about having like things placed, the panning, the thing that it is placed in the speakers correctly, but there is also the stereo effect that is coming from your ears. Well, binaural thing is the way, how things are moving, but it can be simulated, and we did it during the improvement of the audio, and of our audio of Arma 3. We start using stereo sounds everywhere, because with close proximity you hear it a little bit differently with both eyes. So we're simulating that too, without having any binaural filtering or whatever. Fourier transform.
And I like that you talked about it like it's a bit of art, right? And then I think when it comes to sound design, or like the decision-making portion of sound design, how much does the audio team really decide, or an audio engineer decide how much creative freedom to take, especially like a game with Arma 3 where it's 2035, obviously in the future, so who knows what it's going to sound like, but how much went into like balancing the authenticity of sounds you hear today versus kind of creating that Hollywood sound, or the more artificial futuristic sound that you might think you hear?
Yeah, there were a lot of discussions about it, about being Hollywood or being authentic, like 100%. I think the balance is important. It's still a game. You need to have fun, and you are super happy when you hear a ricochet, which is like fun, So we are having fun too, but not like in a way of like making it completely stupid. It's authentic always, but the balance between the Hollywood, so a little bit coloring it and making it more, not using the samples only, but making more like adapted to the feelings we had when we were there. For instance, some things can be recorded at all, even in a very hard way, like a shot from the tank. It's so shocking, scary thing. And even the small caliber, it's a kick of the horse to your chest when you are standing close to it, and you are really afraid of the heart attack or something. So how to simulate that, And when we were listening to the recording of one of these cannons, there was just like plops in the sound editor. So like, what is it really? Let's put a techno kick in, So we just improved it by some bass layer, and well, that's closer. So the experience is the most important. Like if you are working on some whatever fantasy game, go to the forest, find a stream, listen to it, close your eyes and feel it, and then you remember the emotion. And then when you are doing the sound design, just make you feel the same once you hear it in the game. So it's not only about precise using of samples as you recorded them. It's really an art of some kind.
Mm-hmm. And as many are aware, Arma tries to simulate a lot of those real elements, like those real life effects and feelings to firearms. And one thing you actually talked about earlier a little bit was like the bullet cracks and booms that when you're shot at. But can you expand a little bit and review on the like how those effects those features are achieved? Like what kind of research goes into detail,
it's physics.
detailing, yeah.
It's physics, but you still need to simplify, of course, because the reality is difficult. Like especially this bullet crack or sonic crack or the sonic boom thing. That's I've seen I went through one long master thesis about it, 700 pages. It's really a difficult phenomenon, but let's simplify it. So there is something which has some like in real life every single sharp shape is actually creating its own sonic boom. So it's like more complex sound that it is. But we were thinking, there was a discussion like how the hell the sonic crack works exactly in a way of it's not a sound, it's a shockwave. You can record it, but it's not a sound by definition of like normal sound. So we were thinking, what is the speed of it? So yeah, on the normal of it, it's a speed of sound, but in the direction of playing it's supersonic. So it's like very difficult phenomena. And we were thinking, first of all, where to put the sound source for this one. Is it like complete ambient sound, or does it point you to the plane? So yeah, we were doing research, and we never heard sonic boom of the plane in real life because we were not lucky actually like that. But definitely we tried these supersonic weapons, supersonic ammunition. So yeah. So it's always about research and physics, studying physics materials, like how it behaves in real life.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like obviously, like I said, there's a lot of features that like similar to that in terms of like, I'm guessing more physics is involved in all that as well. But I think another aspect that's really important to the soldier on the battlefield is obviously all your senses, but especially sound and the three-dimensional environment that you face yourself in a game that's a military sandbox. There's a lot of information you can gather from sound. So how did you go about developing like the high dynamic range of sounds? Like there's the different, obviously there's physics and research into that, but
Yeah.
like how the player's experience to be like, how did you get it to be as realistic as possible?
Yeah, the dynamic range is a topic for like it's a huge one. In the beginning, there was like nothing, like small dynamic range for similar footsteps was almost the same as the shot. Then we came with the update, which raised the dynamic range, and we actually scared half of the people, and like the rest were super happy. And I remember that we are going in the right direction. People are divided, so that's something, it's changing. So we actually then are thinking, isn't this too much? And yes, as said, like, some people actually weren't happy with that because special soldiers, which were commenting that it's too authentic, and I don't want to talk about things, but whatever. It's about how to simulate the real dynamic range. So yeah, you can scale it, or you can come with some advanced system. So these days we know that there are things like scale, the dynamic scale, which is moving. So back then we just raised it, but now with audio and engine in Enfusion, we are implementing things which is like manually scaled dynamic range, but also the feature which is automatically changing it which works in a similar way as an accommodation of ear. So when you hear just silent sound, your range is moving down in the real scale, and if the shooting coming, it's moving up, so the lower sounds are even attenuated more, so you feel it's more loud, but in reality it's not. Well, it's actually the same story as you, if you go to the whatever club, there's super loud music, and you go out, you hear nothing, because your ear accommodated. I don't know what exactly is happening physiologically. It's more hardened somehow, the drum or what. But you go in, you cannot actually be there because it's painful. So you see, it works in a similar way as an eye. So we also are now working on these features that it's changing dynamically, and that's another level of authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, and again, something else we touched on is also just the sound engine itself, and focusing on that, of course. Like I guess what type of I guess improvements, or sorry, not improvements, like what type of developments have over the years like have happened from what the original plan of the real virtuality engine that took place during your time working with audio, or like the audio in Arma 3, and how was it implemented over time, like versus the original plan? Can you touch on that?
Ah, that's also that's a history. It's a parallel history to the sound design and the ideas of features, because we needed some technology which will help us to achieve these ideas. So it started. The original idea was very simple. I believe the beginning was simple inverse square rule. So the detonation of the sound is actually being attenuated by the second. What is it? Square of the distance. But then one thing happened which ruined it, and it was a range parameter. And that's a interesting idea, because if you have a sound, you record it, you normalize it, and then by parameter, which is inverse volume, kind of like the digital one, you describe what is its position in the scale, and then inverse scale law works, all the ranges fits. But once you have a range which is actually set up, not just cutting the distance, so you don't simulate the sound anymore in the further distance, but once you try to scale this curve which fits the loud sound, it really starts, you start understanding how sound intensity is changing with the distance. So imagine you have an artillery shot and this attenuation curve, and you scale it to the campfire. So what will happen? You will not hear campfire in 10 centimeters already. So then we came with 3, or I don't know how many configuration of these attenuation curves to actually solve it. So and then things became complicated, and we started to sort it out how to actually deal with it in the future. So that's one thing. The range and volume, like these like actually difficulties. So the understanding of physics is very important there, or how it works, because range doesn't need to range if you configure everything properly, because the engine will cut the noise floor, so it will actually say this is your range because the loudness is defined. But there were many other things. First of all, I remember we combined in Arma 3 in the beginning, we combined all the ways how things are configured, because actually all the audio engine were accumulating more and more features, and there were more and more different configurations of sounds. I don't remember all of it, but there are a lot of different ways for loop sounds, for whatever. So we came with the idea of somehow make it like general, and some setup which will be simple enough to understand. So we came with the sound shaders, which is like libraries of sounds, first of all, and with sound sets, which actually combine them and playing them in some way, and some features. So we were inventing it, and it's always like that in Bohemia Interactive, that we are actually we know about other engines, we know about everything, of course, but it's inspiring for us. But we are not copying it. We just have our own way. So we were also to achieve it quickly, So we actually combine what we had, and we make it like good enough for the purposes we had. So sound engine, RV sound engine was refactored, and we came with the idea of sound sets, sound shaders, and I don't even remember all of it, but these things were very nice to introduce, and I think people loved it because they like immediately there were like new mods coming, so people were like loving it, I believe. And now our future is audio engine in Arma Reforger, which is based on all these ideas actually, and it's more modern and visual, and you can connect everything with everything. You can drive every single parameter of the audio with any simulation value if you have it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, can you expand on that with like what type of audio improvements might we see in like the new Infusion engine
Yeah.
Versus what we included in RV?
So you want me to talk about it?
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, just
I was
like,
thinking.
yeah, no, just like, yeah, is there any kind of improvements or features that would be part of the Infusion that you were just talking about that would be that wasn't part of the RV or the new things that we were
Yeah, filtering, like whole system is different. I mean, the system became like non-linear mixer. It's something which is visual. There are these signals, so it's signal driven. You can combine, or you have a way how to actually manipulate or combine simulation values and make them values for of the parameters of the sound. So basic things like volume, pitch, and these things, but also whatever wet dry of the filters and whatever else. So we are making modular, so it can be extended in the future a lot. So whatever we have a lot of new features. We are working on the filters. We are working on some advanced techniques how to simulate the propagation. But yeah, it takes time, and what we really wanted is like optimized audio engine which quickly mixes what you want to, because there are a lot, like we are with the Forger coming to even more details now. So to have a way how to simply and like clearly set up the sound visually, it's our motivation. And these signals actually are replacement for the simple expressions a little bit, but also it can be so complicated. I did my own engine in the audio engine, Infusion audio engine, and it turned out to be really fun. Like the spaghetti monster I created, like RPM values here, constants which are defining what are the recording RPMs, and then the outputs were pitch volumes for each of the sample. So
yeah.
So I was like, what the hell, isn't it too much? But yeah, it works.
Gotcha.
So a lot of features coming. Yeah. We are still in the beginning, of course.
And I think so. Yeah, just going back to Arma 3 a little bit. Obviously, there's other parts of the game that are definitely something that everyone takes note of, or maybe subconsciously. But not only is it the weapons and vehicle audio that's important, or the soundscape and environment, but music is a crucial element of the video game. And Arma 3's soundtrack has been played by a live orchestra a number of times. But can you talk about what the process looks like, what the process looks like to get there? Like, how does it go from the beginning stages of the studio to a final live orchestra playing it in terms of the music for Arma 3?
I'll tell you something. I composed most of the soundtrack for Arma 3. I'm not a big fan of the theme because I've heard it for so many times that it's killing me. But I'll still love the music, right? But yeah. One thing was like I personally realized one thing. We are really doing everything, or we were doing everything to make sound authentic as much as possible. And I realized one day, why the hell we are not working with live orchestra? I know that we don't work on a game which needs it's not like super story based thing which you need the huge orchestra to support it. But it's not true on the other hand, because if you are working on authentic environment, soundscape, why to not support it with authentic emotions? And I realized one day that let's do it. And it was like, unfortunately, for me, actually, a week before the release, I think of Malden. It was Malden. And I just write Marek a message. I have a crazy idea. What about doing it live? And he said, if you will make it happen, let's do it. So I had a green line, but it was a week. So I called one composer. Guy, we have an emergency situation. We need a recording of 4 tracks. I picked Flashpoint and whatever, Jets, and I don't remember all of them. And actually, we started with like without any score, for instance, for the Flashpoint main theme, just by listening to the song. But we actually didn't make it, so we found some old MIDI file. So the first how the first live soundtrack was born was very challenging, painful, but there was nothing stopped us. Even like locked studio when the orchestra came for the first time, because it was everything was so rushed that they just didn't have time to do it properly. So we did it the other day, but we made it, and it's actually a very good recording. So the first time I came into the Bohemia with my quick decision, but I don't regret it. It's amazing part, and I was really super happy to see people talking about it, like finally, like with the orchestra in the game. So now we are continuing this effort, and there is no way. Well, we still will have some sample music, but if possible, we will always record it live, because there is an emotion. It's live. The musician is playing for you, not for the library. When you are listening to the difference, actually. So yeah, recently we have 2 3 years ago we have a concert live in Prague with the Reforger main theme plus something. It was Reforger's Huge, and we actually were nominated on the Hollywood Music and Media Awards. So we were in the top 10 soundtracks with even not fully released game. So I think the music we are taking care of very well. We are really, it's our baby which we love, so we're trying to, especially me when I'm in the lead of the Arma Reforger, I'm a little bit pushing the music to perfection. So emotions are super important. Yeah. Authentic emotion.
And like you said, there's a lot of recognizable music pieces in the game, and as you already said, you're a creator to many of them, such as "This Is War," which is the main theme of Arma 3, and obviously you've heard that hundreds of thousands of times probably at this point.
And all of the variants I was then doing.
Then
I passed it to Ondřej Konvička, who continued with Jets and others. So he was still fresh, so he can do the other variants. But I couldn't do it anymore. But This Is War was nice because I was angry when I was composing it, because I didn't have any idea. Well, I did, but it was like stupid and too pathetic and what. And I just said, let's take a Flashpoint. Like, that tune is great. Why not? So I called Ondřej Matějka, who was the owner, and I talked to him about it a little bit, and then I just took a nasty synthesizer, doing it quickly. So first iteration was done in 3 hours, actually. Because the structure is simple, there's a build up, there is a main thing, there is a part representing civilians and all the suffering, and then there is repeating, kind of revenge thing. So yeah, the structure was simple, and I didn't want it to be complicated. So I was just building it up, and this was very. I didn't compose it even. It came to somehow there. So I was just, that makes sense. But let's imagine the guys, those guys, special forces going there. So they are rushing. So I did the figuration, and then I was like, it would deserve a build up because they are getting closer and the danger is rising, So it has a story, all of it. So
yeah, I guess
composing means storytelling always.
Yeah, and just go to touch back on something you said before about the themes. How are the themes of the music ultimately decided? I think you touched there some inspirations there, but how are they ultimately also implemented into the game? How do you know? Do you match the music with the story, or is it the story dictates the music, or is it the chicken and the egg kind of issue? With fitting it into
Great question.
Into the story.
Many people are answering that one. It's it's a story, of course, but it's more about supporting emotions of the visuals. So the idle music is something you don't realize actually much. No, not talking about the main themes, right? But if you have a music in movie or game, it should rise with the melody and with all the things at the moment when you have the higher emotions. So it should really be very, very balanced with the audio. So with Reforger, we're trying, for instance, now to actually make it blend it into the environment. So we were changing many instruments to not, be sticking from the soundscape much. That's the goal, and we are also learning it because we're learning how to do it, because we didn't do it with Arma 3. There's no in-game music much except the story, things. So yeah, that's a combination always. But from my point of view, the music should be really part of the soundscape.
Yeah, we've already, like I said, we touched on a lot of this already, but like I guess what are some of the difficulties when it comes to creating music for the game or the soundtrack in general? Like what are probably the hardest parts of that whole process?
Well, the hardest part is to actually make it feel it. You cannot compose, or well, you can, but it's not good at result if you don't feel the story. So if you just been said like make it sad, it will never be sad. It will be pathetic. It will be bad. You need to think, to be the soldier, be the guy in the bad situation. Go out to the training, for instance. You go out and you just make yourself somehow uncomfortable, and you have some feeling, and that feeling, the good composer is composer who actually is sharing his intimate feelings, and so the listener has the same anytime he listens to it. So whatever feelings you have, it's actually very GDPR violating rule, because you are sharing it with everyone. Mm-hmm. But so the best way how to compose the game music or whatever music, I believe, it's my experience, is to think about story, no matter how short the track is. Not make it as a make it happy, make it like winning. No, I would like to see the exact story of kids survived some disaster, going out and immediately have such a feelings that you even yourself, because you have kids, starting to cry, and then you can compose music which is super authentic and honest. Don't be don't over compose it in a way of I'm Hans Zimmer now, guys, so let's do it the same way. Just many people are copying the others in a bad way. I mean, because on the other hand, we are inspired with these guys anyway. We are all AI is learning from others, so each other. So,
and I like the aspect that you said with like that you're really building a story. You're the music's tying in with the story. It's storytelling. And I even think about like going back to Operation Flashpoint. There's a lot of moments in that when you're being chased through the forest. There's that building music, and the same thing carries throughout the series. I think even into Reforger, and there's a lot of like music elements in that. I guess for the community as a whole, I just want to ask, like, so for someone who was maybe inspired by everything we like, the music we've done, or someone who's inspiring to be an audio designer or developer or something like that, what type of like tricks or tips can you give someone that's new to it or learning that would help them design something in the future?
Regarding sound or music, I mean? Regarding sound.
Well,
regarding
either.
sound,
both.
Either. well, start simple always. Start simple. Start with simple things and think about the foundation, the reason why it sounds like it sounds. Why this sounds like it sounds. It's, for instance, you have this bubble wrap thing. Try to record it, and you will see there is nothing, just a click when you are recording it in the studio. But what makes it sound like you remember is the environment. So the short echo is your happiness when you are pushing it. So think about sound as a phenomenon. Why it's happening, and then you actually decompose it, and you can do your own design of setups in any engine, actually, because every engine is advanced in many ways, in even different ways. So start simple, start thinking about the reason why it sounds like it does, and don't overcomplicate in the beginning anything. Even whatever you do, if, for instance, if you are creating the soundscape for the video, I always say start with one long brush first. It should be deliverable at every minute you are working on it. Ideally, it's not true, but not realistic. But what I mean. So just start simple, with big things first. if you have a game, put wind sound everywhere first, and you have your soundscape first, like the first one, and then just make more and more details. So like this, like iterative and thinking is very important, because many people, for instance, even composers, some like not professionals, like starting composing music in a way that they will make perfect first 5 seconds or 10 seconds or even more, but not more. And then they think, oh, is it good enough? And how to continue? They don't understand that there is a tune, you have to sing it somehow. It's like kind of, there's a structure which doesn't need a figuration in the first place. All these things are improving it. So even composers of the orchestra, some people are sending us some like examples of their work, and they would like to work for us too. And I've always heard, oh, this is John Williams guy, this is the guy, this is that guy. But where is the idea? It sounds great, it's super orchestrated, but it sounds like the singer didn't came, or the first violin is sick probably, so we have just the background orchestra. So always to think about it in this way, like there is still simple thing which is the foundation for it, which is the emotion, which you can remember, which is, and the rest, the details will make it even better. But it doesn't work without the found idea. Why John Williams is the great guy? He's great orchestrator, but also great. It's composer of great tunes, like simple melodies. And together it works in an amazing way. So yeah, and don't be afraid of any experiments anytime ever in this area. Invent your own ways.
Try things, basically.
Try it, yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I just got we'll finish up here a little bit, but and then I just want to remind everyone that feel free to ask questions in the chat. We will definitely be answering them here soon. But just to kind of finish up a little bit, I just want to ask, like, is there any memorable moments from your time working with Arma 3, or like the project, any project specifically that you really enjoyed, or like you have a good story that while you're working on it?
I mean,
I'm sure there's hundreds.
Yeah, there's like everything. Yeah. All this amazing job is a huge story, and it's challenging. Recently, there is a huge challenge, which is Arma Reforger, and we are moving on and on, slowly but surely. But before, with Arma 3, it was from the audio point of view. So audio, my role of lead audio guy. Yeah, we created ourselves our own challenges, so memorable moments, like not sleeping for a whole 2 days to finish this recording, or this, as I was talking about, the recording sessions anywhere and experiencing the reality, recording the impulse responses, for instance, or maybe. Well, there are a lot of stories. Like, for instance, the Carrier Command game we were working on, I was a sound designer there too. But then I moved to the video cutscene creator, because we didn't have anybody, and I was like really so much loving it. So I was doing this cutscenes. But the recording of the sounds, for instance, there are these mantas, which were like flying vehicles. And I was not able to think about like, how the hell this should sound. There were two rotors, quick ones. And then I was just sitting like that, and the cleaning lady came with the vacuum cleaner. So I just take microphone and just recorded that one. That's it. I was looking for so long. So there are very interesting coincidences sometimes, and luck. We are using luck very often. Like, that sound is great. Let's record it quickly, and it might be we didn't plan it, but it happened. So we're ready.
All right. Well, now I'm going to be listening for similar sounds of just vacuum cleaners and others.
Menta is originally a vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
The specific one.
I guess
evil one.
Just a couple of other things I'm thinking about is like what type of inspirations. Obviously, there's some things that just kind of pop in your head. Like you said, you hear a vacuum cleaner or something, you're like, yeah. But like, what type of other inspirations have really like driven your creative process, or like your artistry, as you were talking about before, about how it's kind of an art. Like, what do you think like has helped kind of create your art in a way?
You mean the inspiration or motivation?
Uh, I guess a little both. Like,
Both.
what's like, well, I guess let's start with like your, yeah. I guess let's start with motivation and then
It's
inspirations that
very
you take from.
simple. It's very simple. I think this is the same as community guys has. I just don't like some parts of that. So let's like make it better, you know. So to fix things, to improve it, to extend it, whenever I see the opportunity to improve it, why not to do it, you know, and why not to do it now? So like this is driving me, and even like even in my career, actually, if I can talk about this too, like I started as a sound designer, but I was like unhappy with kind of broken plan regarding the video editing in the company because there were too many of them. So I took all people and I created my own department with videos guys too, and we were happily multi department planning ourselves. So we were improving processes in Bohemia by just trying to fix things. So yeah, combining first of all audio guys into one team, which is above the project. So we are sharing resources, then actually joining video guys to us so we can help each other too, and plan things, because videos, cutscenes, and all the other stuff are very connected. So that was the way, and that drives me all the time. I would like to fix things, and I'm super I like really super unhappy when I'm losing opportunity to fix something, to present something in a better way, for instance. So yeah, that's motivation.
Hmm.
Inspiration, it's always people which are happy, and even those which are not happy, because then I see, yeah, that's the problem, we need to fix it, but it takes time. And yeah, it's difficult definitely in Bohemia Interactive, in from the point of view that we are working long-term projects, and it's a marathon, it's a long run. You need to be very strong to actually go through it, and especially when you are starting project from scratch, that's really difficult. It's so complicated, complex thing. But always, well, nothing is stopping us. We'll always finish it, because it's the way how we think. We are not ready yet, and the same applies to all of the Armas. Actually, we're improving it one by one, feature by feature. Arma 3 also didn't appear at one day. It's like evolution of 20 years, or
Yeah, yeah.
it's like really, really, really long time. So the first release didn't have a lot of features, and then all the DLCs we're expanding it, and together with that, all the audio features and everything. So the complexity of Arma 3 is a result of many, many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think at this point we'll switch over to some questions from from chat. And like I said before, if anyone has any questions about Arma 3 or audio and things like that, feel free to throw them out there. But one I saw earlier that wasn't really a question, but it kind of caught my eye, was things like in the last room we talked about Easter eggs a little bit, like so in Tanoa, there is a certain apex predator kind of sound that plays, and I'm curious if there's other
Discovered
kind.
in an hour or something, right?
Yeah, like is there other types of, like, where did that come from, and like where is there other types of like similar, I guess, Easter egg, or like sounds that are included, that were kind of just unplanned, or kind of something that was thrown in.
I will never, never, never say that. Well, I mean, I will. I don't want to uncover anything,
Okay.
but generally, this one, yeah, that was it was me having fun. Like, let's hide something there, and the most it was for me was most about not like to have an Easter egg there, but how the hell to create that crazy predator sound, because it's not simple. Couldn't do it with my own voice, so I was designing it from whatever resources, like trying to like using different animals and different. So it was for me like a one amazing challenge to make this Easter egg happen. But I didn't. Then I set up it. Well, people just I found it very quickly, but it
Mm-hmm.
was yeah, it's a challenge more for me to create it than to have it for people to see, to hear it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I think it has a stupid name like Bird, probably Bird something.
I don't even remember.
So they were like, there's a new bird, let's hear it. And those, that's not a bird.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It was the other, like, this last year. I was like playing around on Tano, and all of a sudden I heard it. I was like, what? What the heck? What was that? Oh, that Donovan. Yeah, that's already in there. But no, yeah, I was just curious to see if there's other things like it or something else. But obviously, no spoilers. People will discover them
I
as they
won't
go.
spoil anything.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
All right.
Now I can say I'm not a part of Arma Free anymore. So
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So anything else from
ask,
this point on?
ask yours.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And which we'll definitely at some point have to do. I guess another question from that was asked was, since there is a lot of like real war, going on with loads of audio and video from what we've seen in the past. Like there's a lot of material from real life, like real life material to study the audio effects and things like that of like explosions and other stuff. How much is kind of incorporated from those types of sources? Like, obviously you can go out and record and either sound libraries, but is there any time that you kind of use real life sources in terms of to create what you're trying to get a hold of or trying to recreate in Arma?
Well, almost every time we are trying to figure out how to record it before. Well, sorry. First of all, we are using the libraries, checking all of them, and actually trying to combine the prototype of sound. But at the same time, we are looking for opportunity to record it in real life. So we are building up, of course, our own library, which is unique, custom, and also, the design sound. So the resources is one thing, but there's no way you just use a recording in the game. You still need to work a lot on it and use tricks, to improve it. For instance, I can reveal one very known trick actually, but not for everybody. Maybe there is a electric zip sound which can be added to anything, like explosion, shot, gunshot, and it adds some weird like feeling which is like real life something. I don't know why. We just were trying to figure it out. So it's always a sound design after recording. Recordings are just the resources. So at any time we are actually having new vehicle in a game, we are hunting for the owner. We are looking for the opportunities how to record it, and with building up the company sound library, there is less and less need, of course, but whatever, we can even recreate library by new recording with new equipment. So you can start recording environment with the different setup of microphones. There are binaural recordings coming too. So yeah, there is always a lot of things which can be improved.
Yeah, I guess a bit. I'm very curious. It's actually a two-part question because I'm kind of combining some things here. But obviously, we're still talking about Arma 3, but there is with the Infusion engine. Like, how does Infusion compare to a lot of existing engines out there? And there's specific features that separate it apart, but also how has there been inspiration from past Arma, the RV, and over like time over the series of Arma? How has there been inspirations or things brought on? Has there been anything like that's you keep moving on from it, and that because it's something unique, or like
Well,
how original or how specific is there to things?
well, good question. I understand. Actually, we are trying to follow the philosophy, the way of thinking we had before. So we are not copying the engine architecture, other engine architecture, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, all sound designers has the same actually like a goal, right? So we end up with something very similar to other engines. So we are inspired by them. We will add some features which are very similar, probably. So yes, of course, there are similarities between engines, but our way is to actually expand the ideas we had before more and more. And unfortunately, I'm not part of the not like close part because I'm just too busy to be part of the details of unfortunately of the audio engine, but I'm checking it time to time. What features are you guys working on and such? So yeah, the thing is that we are always trying to think, like, to check what other engines do, to have our own ideas, combine them into something which can be like implemented in a simple way. Actually, it's also true that We don't have a capacity, like 15 PhD programmers which are specialized in audio to create like huge, like some permutation of material, whatever stuff, So that's difficult. We don't have this capacity on our own side. So there might be some third party, some solutions incorporated, of course, but we are still in the beginning with Fusion Audio Engine. It's once this is finished and this has like solid foundation, we will go with more and more features in the future, which we don't need now even for the soundscape, like granular synthesis or whatever else we are there. So yeah, the goal is to focus more on like connection with the environment and the calculations of the interiors and whatever.
And I guess a question from me is, in terms of the environment, like how much do you like? Obviously, especially in Arma 3, there's a lot of overlapping sounds, a lot of things going on. But how do you like? What was the decision in terms of like how much? If I go walk through a forest, there's sounds from everywhere. There's obviously like insects and bugs and whatever. You can hear the wind, things like that. What is the line, or how much did you decide in terms of like how much audio senses and information comes to the player? Because otherwise they could be easily overwhelmed, and you want to keep that balance from realistic. But in terms of the environment, like obviously there's wind and other features, but how are those kind of like what the process look for deciding those and implementing those types of sounds? Like,
you mean the selection process of which sounds? Well, there is you mean like the engine? Well, the engine does it, of course, because there is a huge amount of sources potentially which can be played, but there is a limitation, of course. We have a genius audio programmer, Frankie, who is with us for decades already, so the guy knows our needs and such, but also he is a reasonable guy who is like responsible for optimization of the engine. So he will tell you, well, there is 32 sounds. For some reason it's always power of 2. Why? Like, ask programmer, can you add one more sound to the limit? No, but I can double it always. Like it's fun, but whatever, they're like limit. And of course there is a process how to decide it. So what I remember, there is layering. So there are regions which are with the distance, and actually in each region there is a decision making system which is prioritizing shooting sounds, for instance, and all the other sounds are attenuated. So it's not that simple algorithm. So regarding this, so to still keep the soundscape rich but not over load it. So basically, and not only that, also you don't need it. You still can fake some things. Well, there is one thing to the sound. Let's talk about the management of the local sound in Arma 3. That's thing which was very fun, because once we just raised the range for this detection by 5 meters, we lowered the FPS of the game by half. So we said like, oh, that's too much. Maybe let's keep it back. So the decisions are difficult, and you need to keep balance between the sound, but always the most important thing is that the most important sounds are not missing. So shooting first, all the things you see should be there and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's engine thing.
And someone had a question earlier about like the types of programs you guys might use, and specifically they wanted to know if anyone in Bohemia uses Digital Performer. I know that's a kind of a mixing program, or what types of programs would you use to make the sounds for Arma?
I'm not aware of Digital Performer. I don't think so. We have a lot of old school things. Some of us are old school guys this way. So we have the Sound Forges and these Cubases, and but also RX, of course, and I don't know which the new guys which they are using, but I think everything which we need actually. So there's no. If you need some specific tool, even it's whatever it's filter or some whatever type of audio software, we just first of all try it if it helps us, and then we just request the purchase, and we usually get it because we need it. It's something which is helping. But generally, I remember the time when every single guy has different software. So there was a Cubase guy, a Logic Audio guy, uh, what else? Ableton one guy. Then there was like all the different kinds of audio editors. but there was some common that the RX is very useful for all the filtering and changes on the I would say scientific way. So,
Gotcha. And also, someone was talking about the, obviously Arma, especially in Arma 3, and even more so in Reforger, the idea of like using sounds according to the environment. So, for example, if you go in a house, the sound might change for if you're firing a gun, or if you're walking on hardwood versus the concrete of the other things. I know there's some audio changes that take place, or walking in grass, for example. How does something like that that work, and how much further might that be pushed in something like Reforger, or and how is that used and implemented in Arma 3?
it's very similar in both. Because we just expanded it, but it's more complicated in Reforger because guys are amazing and they just make a huge, like again, like a lot of samples which are combined together. But we are in Arma 3. I remember when I was doing the sound, for instance, footsteps. I even did the thing that I just split sound of foot. I mean the footstep sound into high pass and low pass, and I combined different variants, and it worked too. It was nice way how to create more variants, just by doing different bass and different highs together. So it was interesting experiment which worked. So we used it, I believe. I don't know if it's there, but I did it. And then also the layers. So you have a layer which is like based on the environment. So you need to detect where they're standing on. But it's very tricky sometimes because, for instance, metal. You have like what is it? Metal? Is it like iron or kind of rusty, whatever? And or is it like a huge metal plate, or how thick? It's a really the materials which are having more like are more acoustic, so more vibrations of things. Those are tricky. And also there is a difficulty with the collision sounds, for instance, because also it's a combination of two things. So if two metal barrels hit, there are two metal barrel sounds, but how to make this happen in the game. It's a tricky way. There's a metrics when you can just combine it and then choose the proper sample, or you can just really mix it based on the simulation value. So yeah, all of these things are always like, it's always a challenge. But there's no difference in Reforger, because in Reforger it's just more complex and we know more. So yeah.
And I think another thing actually sparked my memory of it, like something as simple as like rain falling on objects. So like if it falls on the roof versus the ground, or if you're on a tree canopy, I know that in Arma 3 that those sounds change depending if it's rain falling on
change. It was just added.
Yeah,
there is a rain sound which is general one, but there was like a local memory points in the objects which actually was the sound sources, and they carried the different leaves. So what I did, in Nišek recording studio, I took all the flowers from all offices. So I steal all especially the huge. Everybody was like bitching, and it was not. They were not happy. So I took their little beloved flowers, and I was thinking, how the hell should I record? Can I record these sounds of dropping small drops of the water on it, because whatever you use, it makes sounds too, So we didn't just use like simple computers, but any because all the sprays are just hissing and stuff. So we just recorded that, and we were then together layering these things. So we had like light one, heavy one, less, more, and based on the ranges and the value of how much it is raining, we actually were changing the samples, blending them into each other, and raising the volume. Sometimes pitch actually described the size of the leaves, I remember, and they were played as local sounds on the objects. So yeah, and it was very painful and very time consuming to actually place all the things on all the resources to all the models actually simplified.
Yeah, I'm sure it was
So
very.
yeah, it's just a lot of work. Yeah.
Well,
That's it.
such
That
as
was
Arma
back then.
3.
And
Yeah.
now we would love to detect it.
Yeah,
Course. So,
such as Arma 3 in the past 10 years of
yeah,
things.
but we always found a way. There was
Yeah.
no way we don't make it. We always find a way how to just sit with the programmers, was thinking how to make it as soon as possible, because that was always our goal, to make it quickly, to prototype it. Does it even work? So we came with clever solutions very often, which were not like any advanced, but they were close to reality, and all of these combined together made it much more rich than in the beginning of Arma series audio.
Yeah,
so we never had time or resources to do any advanced like techniques, like complex, audio portals or what. We were always thinking how to simplify it, that it would be sounding great even without these, complicated like algorithms, which are even very like expensive for CPU point of view or memory or whatever. So yeah, clever solutions were always our way.
Gotcha. And I guess kind of adapting to some of the questions, but something about like I thought about is the type of file size compression. Like how much obviously when you have a raw audio file, it's probably very large, but like how do you balance between getting that really good sounding quality versus like keeping file size or the game size of down, and how does that what does that process look like in terms of like that compression?
You mean Arma free?
Yeah, in Arma 3.
There's not nothing complicated there. I believe there is. If I remember, there is this VSS something. There is a delta compression, but the resources are always the full spectrum, which is always analyzed. We try to analyze the need. Do we need that one? Because it's like some low frequency sound, so you don't need 96 kilohertz sample. So in the end, actually, during the packing process, it's being converted into the packed versions and being unpacked during loading.
Gotcha.
But in Reforger and in advanced engines, it's like more complicated.
I feel like,
but it's still the same. Like it's a compression, so it's actually trying to actually remove the frequencies which are not necessary. Always.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a common theme of obviously Reforger having a lot more complexity in terms of just a lot of the features from the original engine, I'm obviously, a lot of people are excited to see what type of things might even progress in the next like for example, Arma 33 is 10 years, so what 10 years down the road for Reforger might have for Fusion engine, or the Infusion engine itself might have for that type of audio advancement. Because even though right now there's a lot of people have sort of commented on the suppression and the effects that they feel like that this audio actually has, they can sense that there's some danger there and things like that. So it's exciting to see that that advancement from that. But no, I guess for now I think we'll start to wrap up. If anyone has any further questions. But I just want to ask you personally: is there anything that you like to add on in terms of? Is there anything you would like to talk about more specifically that you had in your mind, or any parting words for the community in general?
Well, don't be afraid of trying it and experiment with it and make your own way through it. Like take any Reforger asset, make your own variant of it, and that's something which is great. Because when I saw for the first time guys creating the add-ons, or the mods, audio mods, I was amazed by that. I was like amazed, like how far they went with all the things, and even they didn't have tools in the beginning. They just did it manually for hundreds of hours spent on the audio mods. So I was like shocked, like how people love it. And actually, some of these guys from community came to our team. We have two brilliant guys working with us right now. So if you're interested in audio in the future, in working as professionals for some any company developing games try experiment with even other engines and like try to understand the deepness and the architecture of the engines, and compare that, and especially with Forger, try it and you see the difference between the others, between our game engine and others. So don't be afraid of trying to improve things. Maybe that's why maybe the modding started and everything in Arma series, that it was not good enough in the beginning. It was not finished in a way, or not dead, but it was inspiring for people to make it better, so they tried. But it's interesting is that it was never a challenge. It was never challenge between those, like between the community and us, but it was also always a symbiosis in a way of inspiring each other. So when we saw some great audio mode, we were thinking like, yeah, that's great, guys are doing it perfectly, so let's not copy it, let's just help them with some feature or do some similar solution, because we also, because that's the direction where people are heading, that are improving that part, so probably we are missing something too here. So we just pushed it to a little bit, and sometimes it's really was like doing like these steps, community us. So when I was part of the audio, really literally audio development, and seeing all the audio modes. Yeah. The scary thing is the future, actually, a little bit. Not scary, but it's interesting. For instance, like radio protocol. We didn't touch this topic, but we have like a huge thing which is cinema free, and the radio protocol is something which we were in the beginning the first design was like to chop the sentence into such a small pieces that it's a robotic something, and go to that tree was very specific order in the forest, right? So like, and even didn't like sound like flawlessly and naturally. So so we came with the idea, and there was a how do we call it, radio protocol task force. So guys we were focusing on the radio protocol being authentic without noticing that there is any cut in the things. So we developed our own way how to record things with actor, that actually the result, these thousands of samples, are as resources for combining them into sentences without noticing. It's an automatic, it's an algorithm which is doing. So the future is what? Future is generation, of course, because now you have the sound voice generations which is so authentic that you don't even realize the difference between this and real life. So that's the future, when even the compression, we're talking about the compression, it's also something which can be easily handled by the engine by just analyzing the sample needs, actually make it smaller. So there's a lot of things. So AI is coming to our actually department too, and we have a lot of ideas how to use it. No, I'm not talking about the composing music composed by that machines, or whatever. But on the other hand, it can be used in a good way, that it can help a lot. So I imagine
So you're not going to see any AI generated music soundtracks or anything.
it's pretty possible. But AI generated music played by live people. That's the
Okay.
That there are emotions.
I guess I just have a couple of last ending questions, and then we can wrap it up here. But I guess one is you kind of mentioned it about modding, and you don't have to name any specific mods for obviously there's been thousands and thousands over the years. But I just want to hear your thoughts a little bit on like your thinking and your feelings towards like the types of mods, especially specifically audio mods that have been added to Arma and things like that. Like if you had any thoughts on that, or anything you've seen in the last few years that you feel like were
no. Recently, I was not involved, so I don't remember much specific things. I remember really old stuff because I was then really involved. But recently, I don't. Well, I will hunt for them, but I will focus on them because it's my heart, audio and stuff. So I will be really looking forward to see new ideas coming from people, which will inspire us again. So that's. But I'm sorry, I don't know about anything specific.
That's all right. Is there anything? This will be my last one, but is there anything in the last 10 years of especially Arma 3 development and things like that, that a sound that you might want to change, or if you wanted to add a sound, like is there something else that you would have
Yeah, I'm
gone
afraid.
back in Arma? Yeah, in Arma 3, is there anything you would have gone back to add or change?
That's a tricky question. Uh, hmm. I'm art. Yeah, I didn't finish all the sound. I had like a lot of sounds ready to be implemented and did never finish it. It was sounds of wind blowing through all the holes and around poles and everything. Like that thing, it was like last part of the soundscape I was missing. So, and it, hidden in the during the wind in the house when there is a hole in it. I was looking forward to do that, but I never finished. That's my pain. It's my depth there. Yeah. But
Yeah.
change, I don't know, like to change things. I don't think so.
All right. Yeah. Sometimes we always look back and we're like, oh yeah, like you said, you should have. I wanted to finish
That
that.
one.
Yeah.
The
I always said if I was
sound of flapping clothes, which was there and nothing moved actually in this engine, which was super fun. Like you had this, this flapping cloth
Mhm.
sound, and there was like a stick, and it was like static all of it. So I was like having fun. Like, yeah, we are far ahead of
I guess is there any
art.
yeah is there any other sounds that didn't make it in, like that you had originally started and then
that group of sounds which
yeah.
are actually which were representing the wind.
Okay.
It was not developed, not finished. I did
Okay.
few of them, like the forest things. There are a lot of animals. There are a lot of animals on Tanoa, but you don't see anything. Everything is hidden. All the animals, they are simulated, of course.
Yeah.
We have perfect models of all the monkeys and birds, but you are not lucky. But you hear them, right? So like it
Yeah.
was like having fun with audio, that I realized how much the audio can really make it much more rich than you just see. So even the thunderstorm there with all the branches falling down, especially in the Tanoa forest. I remember that one. It was scary. I raised the volume that you cannot hear anything else. Just that one. It was scary with the stereo, really low frequency thunders and these sounds. It was nice to actually see that how I can manipulate with the visual without changing it.
Mm.
In a way of like experience.
Yeah, I always said if I could do audio design, I would add more goat sounds, but that's about.
Oh, yeah. Well, there
No.
was also the thing that all the Arma free, that a lot of environment is Greek, of course.
Yeah.
So I was there many times in Greece on the islands and such,
Mhm.
and they're like, I was really told by many people, lower the volume of the crickets, because I did it authentic.
Yeah.
But in real life in Greek island in summer, you
Yeah.
cannot be there because it's so fucking loud. But it's amazing, of course, everything's beautiful. But we have to a little bit change the authenticity, lower the cricket
Yeah.
sound.
Otherwise,
Also, all the features. Talking about the crickets, I remember the Frankie, the audio programmer, who was implementing the feature that if you shoot, it is we would like to stop some sounds like birds and such.
Hmm.
By the way, it's not true. Birds, they don't care. We can shoot whatever you want. They're just singing all of that. Well, maybe not some wild in the forest which didn't see person in real life, but those which are living, especially around the shooting ranges, they're just happy all the time. But what we did, we tried to. There is a feature which is attenuating the sound of crickets when you shoot. But the first version of the feature was that Frankie actually cut the volume by 2, so he just halved it. So it was like when you shoot the cricket goes like a little bit less with the volume. So I told him, man, crickets cannot do that. They just they just disappear or stop completely.
They just play
So,
a tinier violin. There you go.
So then it's just like piano.
Yeah.
It's like fortissimo,
Yeah.
like in Greece.
Okay. Well, I think that will be the last question, but I appreciate you, coming on and talking about the audio of Arma 3 and future stuff. But I'm sure there's other questions that people had unfortunately they couldn't answer. But like I said, thank you for coming and being part of this. And as we celebrate 10 years, it is crazy to think that Arma 3 has been out for that long, nearly that long. And especially a thank you to all the viewers and people who came to watch, and we will hope to do again in the future.
Yeah.
But any last parting word before we go
Yes,
in this?
thank you very much for having me, for inviting me, and it was my really huge honor to be here talk about it. I didn't tell you maybe all you expected. I don't know, but I did my best. But I thank you also to have this opportunity to be part of audio team for that many years and part of our free soundscape creation. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, yeah, I'll extend that to thank you, like I said, to everybody who came and asked questions, and hopefully see you again in the future. But
See you.
that'll be it for now, and until next time, see you on the battlefield.